Hi, and thanks for joining. If you're new here, I'm Wendy, and this is Nina's Jewels. My husband and I buy things at garage sales, flea markets, thrift stores, just about anywhere we can find things to sell online and flip for a profit. Today's video is going to be what sold for February 4th through 10th. Let's get started. The first thing we sold was a Fry & Company Southwest print jacquard beanie cap that we got when we were doing retail arbitrage. We purchased it for $7.95 and it sold on best offer for $20 even. Next up was an Amscan brand new in package green paper foil St. Patrick's Day letter banner. We got this in the Goodwill bins. We paid just 67 cents for it and it sold on offer to buyer for $9.58. We got positive feedback on that item. Next up was a Pokemon Cleaver collector coin. We got this in that big bag of Pokemon items at a garage sale. We paid $5 in total for the bag, but I broke down our cost per item on that bag and said that we paid 18 cents for this coin. I don't really know how I worked that out exactly, but we had gotten like a whole bunch of cards and figures, and we got this coin and a pen, like a lapel pen in this bag. And I had like some method to my madness when I was working out the cost of goods on this, and somehow I came up with saying that we paid 18 cents for this coin. It sold for $2.99, which was our full asking price, and we got positive feedback on it. And I think we were able to ship this using the eBay standard envelope because it was just a thin, lightweight plastic coin, and it was less than a 1/4 inch, which are part of the rules of the eBay standard envelope, and the buyer was happy with it, so that worked out. So if you're shipping coins, you can ship them out using the eBay standard envelope system is what I'm saying. Okay, next up was a It Must Be Magic by Tina Marie. It was a cassette, and it was in excellent use condition, but we picked this one up because it was a hard to find cassette. We got this at the thrift store. We paid 27 cents for it, and it sold for $18.38 on offer to buyer. Next up was a pair of women's Levi's 505 straight leg dark wash red tab jeans. We got these at a garage sale for $2 and they sold on best offer for $23. Next up was a pair of FitFlops. FitFlops are definitely a Bolo item. If you see them, pick them up if you can get them for the right price. We were actually lucky and got these from a family member who didn't need them anymore and just gave them to us at no cost to sell. So thank you to that family member for that. These were a pair of purple Whirl suede FitFlops. We sold them for $40 even on best offer, and we got positive feedback on them. Next up was a pair of, the brand was called Ponte Vecchio. They were red leather strappy wedge sandals, and it's not a brand I had ever heard of, but they were marked Italy, so I did pick them up. But when I researched them, they didn't seem to have like a really great resale value. But I went ahead and listed them, and they did have a few watchers and eventually sold for $21.58 on offer to buyer. We had gotten these in the Goodwill bins for just 67 cents, so that still worked out well for me. I was happy with that anyway, and we got positive feedback on them. So at the Goodwill bins, I would probably pick these up again. I'm not sure about anywhere else, but I generally do pick up clothing items that are marked made in Italy, because people like things that are made in Italy generally. Next up was a 1980 Sands Hotel Casino Reno, Nevada $1 slot gaming token. There are collectors of vintage gaming tokens from casinos, from pizza places, from anywhere like that, because those items are now obsolete. Everything is electronic and people are collecting those now. So that, does not seem like something that you would want to sell, but it doesn't sell. These don't sell for much money, but they're obsolete now and people are looking for them. So if you've come across those, maybe consider listing them. Not a lot of profit in it, but they will sell. We found this in a storage auction unit along with another one, and I can't remember where the other one was from, but that one's still listed. This one sold for $7.98 on offer to buyer, and we had paid just 23 cents for that out of the unit, and we got positive feedback on it. Next up was a Holy Bible giant print letter edition, New King James Version hardcover. We'd gotten this at an estate sale for just 50 cents, and it sold for $13.58 on offer to buyer. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but there's like a trash truck or something making the beeping sound out there, so I apologize if you can hear that. Next up was a Netgear Nighthawk XCS tri-band Wi-Fi router. It was new in the box, but I do think it was maybe open box. We got this in the B stock liquidation pallet, and we had paid $47.18 per unit on that pallet. And this one sold for $119.99, which was our asking price. Unfortunately, we did have a return opened on that, and the buyer stated that they tried to register the product, and Netgear would no longer let them register it because it was an older product. You know, I don't know when this item was made, but you know, it's probably older than a year. It's probably was a shelf pull or a returned item, and they just wouldn't let them register it. But the item works. I mean, we actually tested every single item that we received from that liquidation pallet. So we know for a fact that this item worked, but they claimed that Netgear would not allow them to register the product, and that made the product not functional. So because eBay just automatically approves the return according to the way we have it set up with our free returns, they're sending it back. I did respond to them and said, no problem. We are happy to accept your return. However, note that the item does in fact work. Netgear may not allow you to register the product, but we did test the item and it is fully functional. You can use the item as a router, but you may not be able to register the product with Netgear. Thank you so much for your understanding, and we are happy to process your refund in full when we receive the product back in its original condition. You know, something along those lines. So I never heard back from them, and last time I looked, they had started the process of the return. So we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully we're covered in that instance, because I do think we had free returns on it, so I don't think that anything negative can happen to us on that, but you know, you never know. We'll see what happens there. Things surprise me on eBay all the time, and this is one. I had no idea someone would return a router because they weren't able to actually register the product with the manufacturer, but people surprise me. Okay, next up was a Michael's 12-piece Merry Minis glitter resin Santa ornaments. So these are those teeny tiny little ornaments that would go on like a miniature tree or something like that. These were new old stock, but new in the package ornaments. The packaging was kind of yellowed and old, and we disclosed all of that, but we had found these in the Goodwill bins for just 92 cents, and they sold for $7.98 on offer to buyer. Next up was some of the gel clings, window clings. As you know, we sell lots of those. We got these on retail arbitrage, and we had paid just 33 cents for these. They sold for our full asking price of $12.99. We got positive feedback on these, and this was also a repeat buyer. So I'm not sure if they had purchased other window clings from us or something else, but this was a repeat buyer. Next up was a brand new in package Livewire 5-foot male-to-male balance shielded cable or cord. I'm not sure what kind of cable or cord it was. Some kind of speaker cable, I think. This we got at a garage sale. We paid $1 for it, and it sold for $13.99, which was our full asking price. Next up was a vintage 1987 Generation 1 My Little Pony Rattles pony. And we got this at the Hoarder Estate sale for just 50 cents, and it sold for $14.99, which was our full asking price. Next up was something that we got in the Goodwill bins, and we had picked up this game thinking that it was complete, and then when we got it back, to our office, we discovered that it wasn't complete, so we just ended up parting it out. And we've actually sold several different parts of this game. This was the Mattel Bounce Off game, and this part that we sold was 8 of the blue ball pieces, which is all of the balls that originally come with the game. And I think we've also sold the other color balls that come with it. We've sold that part and maybe the instructions or something like that, but we've sold several different parts from this game. So picking up that game was a mistake, but then, we ended up making that work. So this listing sold for $9.99, which was our full asking price, and we had paid 61 cents for this at the Goodwill bins. Next up was a pair of women's 7 jeans. They were a dark wash, skinny stretch jeans. We'd gotten these at a garage sale. They sold almost immediately for $29.99, which I believe was our full asking price, and we got positive feedback on those. Next up was a really pretty handmade, hand-beaded, sleeveless evening top. It didn't have a brand, so that made it harder to sell, but I do believe it was silk. I probably should have put that in the title. But it did eventually sell for its full asking price of $69.99. I had gotten that at a thrift store for $4.56, and we got positive feedback on it. We did have that for quite a long time because it did not have a brand, but that was a very beautiful handmade top, and I knew that it would eventually sell when somebody saw it and saw how beautiful it was. Next up was a book. It was called A Treasury of Gilbert and Sullivan. And it was a hardcover book from 1941. We had gotten that at an estate sale for 54 cents, and it sold for $12.99, which was our full asking price. Next up was a 7-piece lot of 18 to 24-month infant boy clothing. We'd gotten that in the storage auction unit for just 24 cents, and that lot sold for our full asking price of $29.99. Next up was a vintage Queen Art pewter toothpick holder. We had gotten this from a friend who was downsizing from her home into a smaller townhome, and she gave us her entire pewter collection to sell. This came from that. So we had no cost associated with it, and this item sold for $20 even on best offer. Next up was a 36 by 24 original landscape art painting on canvas. It was from 1983, and it was signed by an artist. The first initial K and the last name Poul, P-O-U-L. I researched it. I couldn't find any information about that artist, so I just listed out exactly what it said. And this artwork did eventually sell for $97.38 on offer to buyer. We had no cost associated with this because this came from the other business that we own, which is a custom picture frame shop. Next up was a vintage 1998 Vandor 16-inch Curious George rocket tornado lamp. You turned the lamp on and it created like a swirl, like a tornado swirl inside the lamp with the liquid inside, and it would spin around in there. So it was kind of like a lava lamp, but it would spin the liquid instead of, creating a bubbling lava. So this is kind of a Bolo item if you do ever see this anywhere. This sells for high. We paid $20 for it. We had seen an ad for some vintage toys, and this was one of the vintage toys that we purchased. This one we purchased for $20, and this item sold for $79.98. It did kind of take a while to sell, but we had a lot of interest on it. But we had purchased a lot of other things from this particular seller, and we definitely made our money back on this buy. Next up was one of the fantasy $100,000 bills that we got from the other business that we own. We've sold several of these. This one sold for $9.99, which was our full asking price, and we got positive feedback on that. Next up was a vintage pair of 1950s Spalding Youth full grain sheepskin boxing gloves. My husband got these for $5 at a garage sale along with another pair that he also paid $5 for that we still have listed. This pair sold for $50 even on best offer. Next up was a pair of Cat and Jack girls size 6X super skinny stretch jeans, and they had like a tuxedo stripe of sequins down the side. These belonged to my daughter, and so we had no cost associated with them because I believe they were hand-me-downs, or we got them at a garage sale or something a long time ago. We didn't buy them brand new in a retail store, I'll say that. These sold for $14.99, and that was our full asking price. Next up was a lot of 2 Chick-fil-A Kids Meal Toys 2019 Highlights Activity Books. They were brand new in the package. We got these in the Goodwill bins. We paid 67 cents in total for them, and they sold for our full asking price of $11.99. Next up was a lot of 8 Leapfrog My First Leap Pad game cartridges only. So we didn't have the books that went along with them, just the game cartridges. We had gotten these at an estate sale. We paid $3 in total for them, and they sold for $15.99. They took a very long time to sell. Probably not an item I would pick up again. Next up was a Bible. It was an ultra-thin New King James Version from 1996. We got this at a thrift store for 81 cents, and it sold on offer to buyer for $19.98. Next up was a Lane Bryant lime green V-neck sweater that we got at a garage sale for $1, and that sold for $17.58 on offer to buyer. And last up is another My Little Pony that we got from the estate sale. This was a set of 2 2005 and 2006 McDonald's My Little Ponies. They were minty and cheerily. They had some wear on them, and their hair was like super tangled, but I just sold them as is. We had paid 50 cents for these at the estate sale, and they sold for $11.98, but we did get positive feedback on them. And last but not least, I'll go over all of the collectible cards from my husband's personal collection. This week we sold 3 cards for a total dollar value of $6.97. That wraps up all of our sales for the week of February 4th through 10th. Let us know if you liked this video by hitting the thumbs up button. And if you're not already subscribed, please make sure to hit that subscribe button with the notification bell turned on so you can be kept informed of all of our latest content. Stick around for the next video that's going to pop up right over here, and we will see you on the flip side.